Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey, this is Craig Garber. You know me as host of the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, but when I'm not interviewing world-class guitar players, I'm busy helping clients with their marketing. In fact, since March of 2000, I've helped over 300 clients in 108 different industries all over the world sell everything from $20 books to $5,000 seminar seats and everything in between. I even authored a book about my experience called How to Make Maximum Money with Minimum Customers. Now, if you own or operate a business, ask yourself the following marketing-related questions and be honest with your answers. Are you generating fresh new qualified leads on a daily basis? Is your website generating enough sales? And if not, do you know why? Is your advertising effective? Is it predictably and reliably making you several multiples of what you're spending on it? And lastly, are you consistently communicating with your email list? Or do you have an email list of prospects and customers, but you have no idea what to say to them, how often to say it, or how to make money with this list? If you need solutions for these marketing problems, then you need to book a one-on-one marketing strategy session with me. After this strategy session, you'll know how to speak to and make money with your email list, how to use your website to attract customers and clients who are ready to buy from you now, and how to sell your goods and services for top dollar and at much higher profit margins than your competition. Listen, stop hoping things will get better on their own. Hope is not a very good business strategy. Instead, book a marketing strategy session with me by going to everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing and find out if your business meets the 5 criteria you need to qualify for this service. Again, that's everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing. Thanks for listening. Now let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and I'm here with a really cool guy, a great player, and a guy I feel I know you for some reason, actually, Joe. Maybe it's because we're both from New York.
Exactly.
Actually, and you know what I was listening to right before I got in this call? Do you remember that song by Bobby Womack, 110th Street?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, what a great song, man.
Such a great song.
I subjected my wife to watch through the movie like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So she's from like a small town in England, and I have her watch all these.
Oh, that will scare her.
all these ghetto films from New York in the 70s.
That's awesome.
She just like shakes her head.
It was also, I think it was in the movie Jackie Brown.
Jackie Brown, right. That's where I got it from, the soundtrack of Jackie Brown. Yeah.
That's a great soundtrack. But yeah, I'm a huge Bobby Womack fan.
Yeah,
one of my favorites.
Totally. I love that track, that whole genre, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, so let me tell you about Joe, because he's an awesome guy. He's originally from New York City, like I said. Joe made a name for himself as a session guitarist, producing major label remixes, and performing with various bands and artists in and around New York City. He moved out to L.A. in 2003, and he really quickly became part of the L.A. scene. He's toured and performed and recorded with, check this out, Robin Thicke, Jennifer Hudson, the Backstreet Boys, Nicki Minaj, Miley Cyrus, Kendrick Lamar, 2 Chainz, Stevie Wonder, Chaka Khan, Earth, Wind & Fire, Fantasia, Sheila E., DW3, Angie Stone, Howard Hewitt, Bobby Brown, the Mary Jane Girls, Dave Koz, Andy Vargas, Jessy J, Ali Woodson, Tevin Campbell, The Game, Macy Gray, Jennifer Holliday, Kid Cudi, Jay Sean, Mohombi, Warren G, and many more. What an eclectic mix here, man. No, seriously, that's very real diverse. In 2008, Joe became a part of Robin Thicke's band in support of his Something Else album. Since then, Joe's toured the world and appeared on Robin's latest album. So that's 9 years. That's like 100 years in real life, right?
Yeah. I've been fortunate. You know, it's been on and off, but mostly on.
Very cool, man. And in 2009, Joe also toured with Academy Award winner Jennifer Hudson for her first full-length American tour. And 2009 also saw Joe performing with the Backstreet Boys in support of their This Is Us album. Joe's also had a ton of really cool television appearances, including MTV Video Awards, Oprah, The Tonight Show, Ellen, Late Night with Jimmy Kimmel, David Letterman, Jimmy Fallon, The View, Conan, Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, Spectacle with Elvis Costello, The Today Show, Howard Stern, America's Got Talent, Regis and Kelly, Carson Daly, Good Morning America, and Stephen Colbert Report. And I'm going to circle a few of these because I don't think I put any questions about that, but I want to ask you about some of these because they're pretty iconic. Joe's also heavily involved in Christian and worship music, and he's worked with many artists, including Israel Houghton, Jimmy Needham, B.J. Putnam, Adam Ranney, Ricardo Sanchez, Mac Powell, Jeremy Camp, CeCe Winans, Jason Crabb, Lucia Parker, and many others. Do you know a guy named, what's this guy? Keith, out on the East Coast in Atlanta, a guitar player. Man, a brain fart. Keith, he does a lot of church work. Sorry, I can't think of it. In 2007, Joe became the music director for Free Chapel OC in Irvine, led by Pastor, I'm going to screw this up.
Jensen.
Jensen?
Yeah.
Jensen Franklin. And in 2011, he released the album Echo, in which Joe co-wrote the song No Thing. Joe's gaining success as a songwriter, and in 2013, he actually co-wrote 2 songs on Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines album, the songs Ooh La La and Ain't No Hat for That. Joe signed with Reach Music Publishing and has been collaborating with many talented writers since then. A song he co-wrote called Force Field was released as a single for Jax, a 2015 American Idol finalist. Joe's currently producing various artists at his LA studio, and he's really excited about his upcoming projects. He produced a duet version of a song called No Worries between Tom Solis and Sammy Hagar, which appears in Sammy's documentary film Red Till I'm Dead, released in 2017. Versatility is the strongest point at what makes up Joe's success as a musician. With a passion for playing all types of music, he can easily fuse his style and shine through any musical situation. And I would disagree. I think you're just a super cool, nice guy, too. I mean, I think that's a big feather in your cap. So,
thank you, man.
That being said, man, thank you so much for taking your time to come on the show. I really appreciate
Absolutely, man. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, come on, man. Let's talk. Let's ask you about some of those shows before we get into it. While I think of it, the 2 I want to ask you about in particular is Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve and Howard Stern. Mm-hmm. How did you get? Like, what did you do on Stern and what did you do on Dick Clark? And maybe how did these gigs come about? Or
they were all with Robin and Dick Clark's thing. We actually did twice. I think it was 2008, and then we did it the following year or the year after that. I forget, but yeah, I mean, those are iconic things. You know, it's funny because I remember the year before that. The year before we did the first one, I was sick on New Year's, and I was watching all my friends perform on there, and I was like, man, this is probably like, the holy grail of TV appearances.
Absolutely.
I was like, I would love to, to be a part of that. And then the next year, there I was, And the funny thing is a lot of people think it's live, and most of it's taped, a month in advance,
Really? I didn't
someplace
know that.
where it's nice and warm.
Interesting.
So, because the second time it was really funny. I was actually doing a gig on New Year's out here in LA, and they had the TV screens on, and all of a sudden we came on the TVs, and the guy stopped the show, and he was like, "Wait a second!" He was like, "What are you doing on the TV?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, this is not live."
That's interesting. I'm surprised to hear that. Very interesting.
So the LA part of it, like they always do like a New York taping. I think that stuff is live, but we always filmed it out here. So we did it in 9:00 in the morning, at a soundstage. But yeah, I mean those, that's an iconic thing. Everybody watches that on New Year's Eve, so it's like seeing that and, just being a part of it is great, So yeah, that was really cool. And I think the first one was, one of them was Dick Clark's last year.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, I would.
So that was really cool.
It must have been really special, you being from here, even though you physically weren't there, but that must have been like a little bit of nostalgia.
Yeah. I mean, you know what it's like to be in New York on New Year's.
It's nuts.
Crazy, and I've gone to Times Square at 12:30, maybe a half an hour after the ball drops, and it's like a ghost town. I don't know how they clear it out so fast. So it's, it's a special time for, the holidays, especially for, when you're in New York, but that's like the culmination of everything.
Very cool, man. Yeah, that's a really nice thing.
Yeah.
And Stern, same thing, was it Robin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When the Blurred Lines album came out, we did, we did the show, and that was, I think, probably out of every TV, radio thing I've ever done, that was the one that people were so impressed with, So that was a lot of fun. I was getting people from high school hitting me up and stuff. "Oh my God, I heard you on Stern." It's like, yeah, So, and
cool, man.
I remember when I was third, fourth grade listening to him on WNBC.
NBC,
on radio,
66 NBC. Yeah, that's right.
And I was, telling him I used to tape the show and stuff. And he's like, "Get out of here! You're not that old." I was like, "Trust me, I am." So it was really funny. I mean, that's like another, it's another iconic thing. I never thought I'd be on Stern. So that was really cool. That was a lot of fun.
That's great, man. I'm glad you got to do that. I know you
the MTV Awards too. That was another one we did. I was part of the whole Miley Cyrus, Robin Thicke craziness that happened. That night.
Tell me about it, because I didn't see that one. Or refresh my memory.
It's probably one of the most iconic performances ever for that show. And there was the whole thing where Miley was twerking on Robin. And
right. Okay.
It was a real crazy, spectacle, I guess you could say.
Was it out of control in person as they made it?
Well, it was weird. I get asked about it a lot. And, when you're in it, like we rehearsed for a whole week doing it, and there's so much that you have to worry about on your own, just for me, like, getting my parts together, obviously, because we did a whole different arrangement of everything. And, getting my sounds together and rehearsing, and then you have camera blocking and everything. And it was funny because at the last minute it was supposed to be like Miley comes out on, there was like this bear that sort of walked into the crowd, which was like in the middle of the stage, and she was going to come out and start the song. And right before we went on, they called me over and they were like, "Listen, we have a problem. The bear stopped working, so we had to move the bear in front of you. So, just be careful. Don't, make sure Miley doesn't trip over any cables or whatever, because you're going to be right next to her." So,
how the hell are you supposed to be? How the hell are you supposed to make sure that she doesn't trip anything while you're playing? I know. While you're playing guitar,
they had to move. They had to move my pedal board at the last minute, so they were just kind of trying to,
Yeah.
And because it's live TV, so it's they're just worried in general. So They're just like, you're in charge of this, and I'm like, well, I'm the guitar player, So, but yeah, I'm actually the first thing that you see on the shot, and I'm just trying to take it all in. And because we were rehearsing it, I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on around me. But when we started playing, and I was looking at the reaction to the audience, and I was like, wait a second,
so you glanced over to see what was happening.
Yeah, and we had to leave early the next morning. Come back to LA, and we got to the airport, and we saw just all over the screens, all over the news, like, this was like big news, and we were like, you gotta be kidding me, like this was, we didn't realize like the legs that it grew. And I had to go back to LA that morning. I had an appointment with the vet for my cat, so I'm sitting there with and it's like 1:00 in the afternoon, and the place was packed, and they're all talking about how crazy this performance is, and I'm like, nobody has any idea that I was there,
that you were the guy
on stage. I was kind of like, keeping my head down.
Holy crap!
But it was crazy though. It was a lot of fun. I mean, that's another iconic thing, being a part of the MTV Awards, and especially a performance like that. It was cool. It was fun. She's great.
Let me ask you something. How many, you've done so much and been on stage, how much, like, a lot of shit blows up that I would imagine you don't give a second thought to.
Yeah. I mean, well, on the technical side, you mean?
Do you ever, I just find it interesting to try to figure out what makes something so compelling that, like, maybe, I don't know. I don't see, it's just another day, I find I'm fascinated by people finding stuff fascinating.
Right. Well, that's, me too. I mean, that was the whole thing with that performance, because it's still, kind of talked about all the time, and, to us, it was just, another day at the office.
Right.
It's us just, it didn't sink in until the next morning when we saw it on the news. It was on CNN. It was like the top story. And
can you imagine?
Yeah, it's just crazy. And you're looking at yourself and you're like, wait a second. This is, what's so bad? We were just playing some music.
Right.
So, Yeah, and I understood the reasons why, people sort of, took to it or whatever and had a lot to say. But if you knew the backstory on what was going down, is a whole different thing.
Well, can you share the backstory?
Well, it was just, for us, being with Robin, like that was his summer, Blurred Lines was the biggest song of the year that year. And it was really his time to shine. And, we were under the impression that we were going to do the show just us, that it was just going to be Robin's performance. So I think that was a little bit of a, not a letdown, but it was just like, oh, we have to share with someone else or whatever. And there are all these special guests.
Unexpected.
Right. Exactly. So that was the one thing. And it was just a crazy time in general because we were doing a lot of promo and stuff. So we were back and forth from New York to LA and doing all this stuff. So it was just a crazy time for us. So, to get there, and then there was all this stuff going on. They were adding more things every day. Like, okay, now we're going to have, 50 little people dancing around in bear costumes. So, we have to make sure the choreographed stuff is the choreography is cool. And then, now we're going to have, this 7-foot, person shooting hot dogs out into the ground. It was just, craziness, And so it's, there's a whole other backstory to this stuff. And then, what people see, they form their opinions about stuff that might not necessarily be true. Like they were like, here's Robin, all over this girl, on stage and whatever. Yeah. So it was a whole big thing, and it was so not like that. It was definitely, those weren't anyone's intentions. It was not like that at all. So, stuff does come out very different sometimes than you expect it to be. We were just like excited to just get up there and rock, and then it turned into something totally different,
And then like, I guess if you're Robin and that's presented to him, what are you supposed to do? Just like, snub her and walk. I mean, he's in an awkward position because like no matter he's wrong, no matter what he does.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I can totally understand that. It was kind of like, it was going to be, in people's eyes, maybe a train wreck, no matter what.
Yeah.
So it was a tough one, and like I said, we didn't really even understand what that was going to be until the next day. So
well, thank God there's so many people in the world that have boring lives and they're fascinated with other people's businesses because a lot of people get to make money and get exposure off that.
Exactly.
Strange, man.
Craziness.
Hey, what were you doing in New York before you moved out to LA?
Well, when I got out of college, it was really hard because I always had like a clear vision of what I wanted to do. And when I got out of college, out into the real world and to see what the business was like, especially in New York, it really wasn't, I don't know where I was going to fit in, So, I started doing just like little sessions and stuff. And I was in a couple of bands, playing around. And even that was like, clubs were closing down and, it's just, New York was changing, by the year it was changing, and, so I started doing some sessions for like some dance stuff, dance music is pretty big out there. And at the time, it was, the remixes were like really popular, late 90s, mid to late 90s and stuff. So I started meeting those kind of producers and DJs and stuff. And I started playing on their stuff. And then, I was like, well, you know what? These guys are making really good money and I can do this. I have a studio and I have a degree in music. I know what I'm doing.
Sure.
So my cousin and I sort of formed like a little production team and we started doing remixes and stuff. And he was working for RCA at the time. So we were getting opportunities to do stuff and making some money and and
you were living in the city at the time?
Yeah.
I was living down in Lower East Side?
Yeah. And so we were doing our thing and I was doing some gigs and stuff and then I got married. My wife and I bought a house and moved back to Long Island. And that was right around 9/11. It was like right before September 11th. And right after that, just everything kind of changed, you know, and here we were, you know, we moved back to Elmont. So I was like, we bought a house maybe like 100 yards away from the house I grew up in. So, wow. You know, that was a little weird to me at first, but, you know, nonetheless, it was, you know, it was great. You know, we were just, you know, just married and just had a house, and it was really cool. We built a studio in the basement. So it was like, you know, I had this really cool spot, but, you know, the remix thing kind of just like dried up right away, you know? So it was like, now what do I do? And,
yeah, there wasn't much people weren't in a very festive mood in New York after 9/11.
No, not at all. And a lot of the guys in the business were getting out, you know, so it was like even the contacts that we had were not there anymore, you know. So I started just like recording bands and stuff in my basement, you know, and just
to studio time.
Yeah, basically, you know, and it was really tough because, you know, I wasn't connected to the music, obviously, and I wasn't really producing it. I was more just letting people come in and, you know, pay for studio time and, you know, spending all day with these people. And then, you know, once they leave and clean up after them, you know, it was like, okay, now I can work on my music. You know, after like a 10-hour day. And it was, you know, it really wasn't productive for me. I really wasn't doing anything that I wanted, you know, and I was teaching guitar too, you know, which I love to do, you know, and I had a bunch of students, and, you know, so I was doing that. And I really got to hand it to my wife because, you know, she could see that I was not happy. You know, she knew that I wasn't doing anything close to what I wanted to do. I think it was like maybe I hadn't played a gig in almost 2 years, you know, and that's, you know, we stayed there for 2 years in that house. And one day I came home from teaching, and she was just like, sit down, you know. She was just like, you know, we just got married, we just bought a house, this should be the happiest time of our life, and, you know, I can see how miserable you are, you know. And she was like, you know, what are you doing, you know? And I realized at that point that everything that I worked hard for growing up and in college and everything, and all the goals that I had for myself were kind of just lost, you know. And especially being in New York, it was like, if there was what I wanted to do out there, you know, if those opportunities existed, I had no connection to anybody that knew how to get me there. So she sat me down and she asked me the greatest question ever, because I hadn't thought about it in so many years. She was just like, well, what do you want? You know? And I was like, I don't know. You know? And she's like, well, tell me, you know, like, she's like, tell me your biggest like rock star dreams, like, you know, sitting on your bed when you were a kid practicing, you know. And I was just like, well, you know, I always envisioned myself living in LA and being like a Steve Lukather kind of guy, you know, like playing with all these different people, playing on a bunch of records. And she was like, whoa, she's like, LA, you know. I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, why did we buy a house in New York if you want to, you know, live in LA? And I was like, I don't know, you know. So, you know, we went back and forth all night, and the next day my house was for sale. You know, and I was like,
awesome.
I was like, baby, what are you know, I thought we didn't pay our mortgage or something, you know. She's like, no, we're moving to LA. I was like, what are you talking about? You know, we can't move to LA. And she's like, no, that's what, you know, we talked about last night. You wanted, you know, we have to pursue your dream. I don't want you being miserable anymore. You know, so I really have to hand it to her, because I don't know what the outcome would have been without her, you know.
Dude, so, your wife is the coolest fucking I should be interviewing your wife here. She's No, I mean, honestly, what a supportive. That is amazing. That is so cool. What a great story, man. I'm so happy.
And she's from Scotland, so she, you know, she doesn't have family out here. So to her, you know, she was like, we have nothing to lose, you know, because I was like, you know, we just bought this house. What are we gonna do? She's like, well, sell it. You know, and to me, it was just like, we can't sell this house, you know. And she's like, why not? You know, we're not happy. Let's go. You know, so she had no ties to anything. So, we sold our house and packed up everything and moved out here, you know. And it was great, because I think I really lost my confidence in New York, you know, being just, you know, totally, you know, just not even having my vision anymore. Just sort of, you know, I hadn't played a gig, like I said, in a couple of years, so I was just like, you know, I missed just playing music with other people. So it was great, just to jump in here, you know, and just, I have to say I was fearless. Like my wife said, we had nothing to lose. So it really just ignited this thing in me that was gone for a while. So it was really great. And being from New York, I think having that mentality that we just have naturally as New Yorkers
to hustle.
It was plain to see out here, like the game plan. I definitely had a game plan, which was really, really important. And it was almost like a video game, like I would come home from, whatever and tell my wife, like, wait a second, like I can see it now. It's just like bam, 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 and, yeah, it was that was basically, what got us out here. Was
That's
her.
Such a great story, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so cool, man.
I didn't know anyone. I had no musical contacts whatsoever out here. So it was definitely a clean slate for me, just to start from the bottom of the bottom and just, work my way up, So it was an adventure, that's for sure.
I understand how you feel because I've been self-employed for 20 years and it's very easy out of necessity to get caught up in the hustle.
Yes.
And you do what you have to do and you don't think about what do I want to do. You think about I got a wife, I got to pay the bills, I got to survive, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not sitting here, there's times you don't have a chance or a position to be selective. So I totally get it. It sounded like your wife, breathed some fire and allowed that spark, it only takes a spark, and it sounds like she gave you that spark to ignite that fire again.
She totally did, and it was crazy because that night that I came home from teaching and, the house was for sale, once it kind of sunk in, I sat on the couch and I turned on the TV and MTV Cribs came on and Babyface was on there.
That's
and I'm
funny.
looking at Babyface and I'm like, man, this is a guy I would kill to work with, and I don't know anybody that knows anybody that would get me hooked up with him. And now years later, one of my best friends, Mr. Nomad, we've done gigs with Babyface a lot. Yeah. So it's funny to see that. And, I remember I was sitting with him. We did a gig years ago. And for some, actually it was for Donald Trump. And it was just like a private gig. And he was there. And he was sitting at this table with us. And we were sharing a bag of Doritos, me and Babyface. And I thought back to that day.
Did you tell him that? Did you tell him that story?
No, I didn't actually. I should have.
Yeah. Oh, man, Babyface, I hope you're listening to this and listen to this story, man. This is a great...
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, too, was really funny. That night, it was a Saturday, and Saturday Night Live was on, and Christina Aguilera was on, and I'm watching this band, and I'm like, these are the guys I should be playing with. I haven't played with any other musicians in years, And a few years later, I was auditioning for her with this band, I'm standing there and I'm like, wow, and a lot of those guys became really good friends of mine.
That's awesome.
So it was so surreal to see that, and think back to that day, and I think, God puts those little things in your life to show you, hey, look, you did it, whether I got the gig or not, you know what I mean? It's like, here I am playing with these guys. And it was like, so incredible for me.
That had to so you've had a number of situations where your move has really been validated by the universe. Yeah. Whatever spiritual force you want to call it. It's like you've been given a pat on the back and say, hey, man, you did the right thing.
Well, even with Robin, it was really funny because the remix stuff, when I was doing it, I had things in my back pocket that I always wanted to use, and put them in the remixes, like whether they were samples or whatever. And one of them was a fifth of Beethoven from Saturday Night Fever. Yeah. I was like, I always wanted to do a track.
Is that Walter? Who did that? What was the guy?
Oh, I forget the guy's name. Yeah, it was Walter.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah, it's way back.
But Saturday Night Fever, that was the greatest music to me, as a child. And I always wanted to do something with that. And I was driving, I was still living in New York. And all of a sudden I hear the track. And I'm like, son of a bitch, someone took my idea, you know, and I'm listening to this guy singing. I'm like, all right, this is good. This is really good, but I'm pissed, you know? So I, you know, back then there was no Shazam, there was no YouTube or nothing, you know? So I happened to be driving by Tower Records, and I drove in. I was like, I got to find out who this is. You know, they didn't say who it was on the radio. So I was like, hey, you know, I'm asking somebody at Tower Records, like, you know, who sang this Fifth of Beethoven thing, you know? And one of the guys was like, oh, it's a band called Thicke. And I was like, Thicke? I was like, Thick? And they were like, no, it's got an E at the end of it. So I was like, oh, it's like kind of like an Alan Thicke joke or something, you know? So whatever.
That's so funny. It was, literally.
yeah, you know? So that's kind of funny. And you know, I fell in love with that first album. I'm like, man, I could work with this guy. Like this, I understand this dude, you know? Like I would totally fit in great, you know, in that situation. Years later, you know,
that's so cool, man.
You know, so, you know, those little moments in life, you know, when they happen, you're like, wow, you know, like, you know, I never decided to be a musician. I never sat there and, you know, decided, hey, I want to play guitar, you know, and play, you know, music for the rest of my life. I just always was. You know, like it was never a thought. It just always was there. And I think those are the things in your life that kind of validate those, you know, those things that happen to you, you know? So yeah, those moments are cool when they happen.
It's so cool. Thank you for sharing those stories, man. And you're still with your wife, same wife, right?
Yeah. She's in the next room.
Awesome. And how long you guys been together?
We got together in 99. So we started dating. We got married in 2000.
That's good for you, man. That's 18 years.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We were friends for a while, and then, you know, some other stuff started happening.
That's good, man. It's funny because my wife's from the UK, and I could have easily, and she's done many times things like that where, and
where's she from?
She's from a little town 30 miles northwest of London called Dunstable.
Nice.
And then she marries me from the Bronx. Go figure. Yeah, it's kind of funny, and we get along great. We've been together 25 years. But
awesome.
She's done that for me many times over my lifetime too, and I've been so grateful, you know, for that, because I think it's really hard to make it through life on your own, to be honest with you. And
it totally is, especially, you know, when you're working for yourself, and you know, you really need that constant reassurance, and you need that extra strength. You know, I don't think totally, you know, I think that's why, you know, God invented women. You know?
No, I totally,
you know,
and
so
like for me, I know, like I don't get down often at all, but when I do, I really need a strong, because I'm a strong personality. I need a strong person to like kick my ass and say, hey, you know,
I hear you.
Get that fucking puss off your face, you know, what are you moping around about? Get up and do something. And I'm like, you are right.
You have to. You know, we don't work a conventional job. We don't have a conventional life where there is someone that's telling you, hey, you know, I need this now. I need this done, you know. So those moments of motivating yourself, they can easily get lost.
Yes, 100%, man. Well, that's cool, man. That's great. Congratulations to you for being together with your wife for so long, too. That's nice, man. I'm really happy for that.
Never had a fight. So
no, really?
We've fought wars with each other.
Well, I can't say the same thing. We've certainly had plenty of fights. But that just makes making up a lot better.
Exactly.
So, okay, so you move out to LA and you don't know anybody, but it seems like everything sort of fell into place as it was supposed to be once it got out there. So what was the first thing that got the ball rolling for you? And like you didn't know anybody.
I knew one person, and he wasn't a musician, so he was no help for me in that department. But I had a friend in Vegas that told me, you know, when you move out to LA, join this site. It's called musicianscontact.com, which I don't even know if it exists anymore. You know, so there's no social media back then. Obviously, there was no way to connect really with people and get to know them, you know. So it was sort of just like you put your profile up and you know, your experience and stuff. And if there's a gig that comes up or whatever, you know, people can look you up and stuff. So I put my name and my little profile up there, and about an hour later, I got a call. And we had just moved into town.
Shit.
We were there maybe like 2 weeks, and it was the beginning of the summer. So this guitar player called me up, and he was like, "Hey man, I do this gig out in Palm Springs every weekend, and I'm leaving to go on tour for the summer. So these guys, they need a guitar player. So I saw your profile and the stuff that you're into. I think you'd be really good for it." So I was like, "Yeah, man, sure." And he's like, "It doesn't really pay a lot, it's in Palm Springs, but he's like, the band's really, really good." So I was like, "Well, who am I to turn down a gig? I just got here. We weren't even like really unpacked yet, So I was like, "Sure." I didn't even ask what kind of gig it was. I had no idea,
Sure.
So it was one of those like 4-set, cover gigs, and I'd never really done something like that before. In New York, that whole scene doesn't really exist unless it's like corporate kind of stuff. So he sent me a list of like 300 songs, and I was just like,
and you want me to learn this by when?
I knew, but I'd never, really played them with a band before,
And there's a difference between knowing a song and knowing how to play it,
Right,
with
exactly.
a band, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I hadn't played a gig in like 2 years, so I was like,
But that wasn't a big deal. That was
no,
yeah.
But it was just a lot to take in, for my first gig in LA, and I had no idea where Palm Springs was. I had no idea it was 2 hours away.
Yeah,
and we were playing like the gigs were like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, so I had to go back and forth every day.
Oh my God! So you were driving 4 or 5 hours a day.
Yeah, it was at a bar, so it wasn't like they were putting us up in a hotel or anything, But I was like, hey, who am I to turn down anything?
Right.
If nothing else, this will help me get my confidence back up.
For sure.
So I drove out there and I met the guys, and they were really cool. And it was that summer was great because it was like my confidence was building, and I became really good friends with these guys. And I wound up like sort of stealing the guys in the band and like making my own band with it. And I started working with a couple of artists out here, producing them and writing with them. So these guys were sort of like my house band.
How did you get those gigs though, not knowing anybody?
One guy was a friend of someone that I knew, and from back in New York. And then another guy, I found him. I went to go see him play. Like I just went out one night. Me and my wife went to see some music, and we saw this guy play, and he was really good, but the band wasn't good. So I was like, aha.
So you just went up and talked to him afterwards.
Mm-hmm. So what I did was I put together these showcases, me and my wife did, that was sort of like a review. We would put the word out for singers to come, and we'd have this house band, and we'd learn songs, and we'd find a club or just like some kind of venue. And we put on these shows with my friend, the one guy that I knew out here. He was sort of like, trying to do the management thing. So we worked together, and we put these shows out called Show and Groove. And it was fun, man. It was like, just a whole new world for me. And, playing with these guys, it was great. We had this house in Hollywood, and it had like it had a big studio in the back. And it had these 20-foot ceilings, all soundproof. So these guys would come over every night, and we would just play all night long.
That's awesome.
So it was really great that I right away I had a little crew together, and this was like my first summer out here, and that was great. And through them, like I met a couple more musicians, and through them, and one of the girls that were singing for us, she sang with this other band that was doing like a regular gig at this club called Stevie's out in the valley, and they needed a guitar player. So I got that gig, and I eventually became like the music director of that band, and then started meeting more musicians, and then I started getting more gigs, and it just
snowballed from there.
Snowball, like I can trace everything back to that Palm Springs gig.
That's awesome.
It's crazy, and I still play with those guys too, every now and then, so it's really great. Like they've become, my good friends. So.
That's awesome, man. And I think it's a great lesson in there that is very relevant to any business. It's that, you don't just go step up to the plate and hit a home run. You got to get a couple of base hits first, and then you get a couple of doubles, and then, and it takes, I think a lot of people are misguided when it comes to quote, being successful, and they think you're like, all of a sudden you wake up one day and the fucking success fairy came through your door and said, "Hey, you're successful today." It
doesn't happen like that, and especially a place like this where it's oversaturated with not just musicians in general, but really great musicians.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys come out here with the same skill set as me, and can do exactly what I do. That's the first thing I learned right away was, okay, I am so not special. I went to my first audition, and there was 30 other guys exactly like me there, and I was just like, wow.
And that was different in New York because you kind of were a little bit more of a big fish in a smaller sea,
little
ocean.
Bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
And yeah, in some ways, I had my people that I knew. You know what I mean? So I felt very comfortable. And now I was so out of my comfort zone. And there was competition involved, So it was, like even when I was doing a lot of the dance music, you never really, a lot of these guys never worked with live musicians before. So I would play guitar and bass, and I was like, I didn't have to worry about anybody else, So here, it was a whole different thing. But it was great. It was humbling. And I think the best lesson that I learned, because especially being a little older too, I was a little seasoned, and I wasn't, straight out of college or whatever, coming here in my 20s with, sleeping on couches or whatever. I had my wife. I had, I had some stability in my life, but.
Well, that was probably a big feather in your cap, I would imagine too, because it's like a welcome to get to not work with some fucking snotty pimple face, and nothing against young people listening to this, please. But yeah, I'm sure that was cool in your doing.
Well, yeah, but they were there, and they still are, but the thing that I think it taught me, because especially being out here, I was so excited to just be here. Like any gig was great to me because I hadn't even been around other musicians in so long. But what it really taught me was that, every gig is the same. Whether you're playing Madison Square Garden or the Olive Garden, it's I always treat it as the same thing. And I think that was something that I started to see in other musicians that, like, oh, well, this is just a bar gig. Who cares about this? Or this is just a church gig. Who cares about this? It's not, and to me, it was like, well, it's all the same. And especially out here, you never know who you're playing with. Some of the crappiest situations I've been in, I've met people that have been, instrumental in my career, So you never know who you're playing with. You never know who's going to walk in. You never know, who your drummer's going to be or whatever. So that was something that I feel that I probably gained the most out here. Just being thankful to be playing a gig in general,
Yeah.
So whether I was playing at the post office or, whatever,
sure.
It was awesome for me, because maybe, here's a bunch of guys I never played with before. This is going to be great. So everything was a new experience for me.
And that energy and enthusiasm, I bet people love that.
Yeah. I think it people pick up on that, because they're probably used to working with guys that have been here for a couple of years. They're like, oh man, I don't want to play this freaking dump or whatever, and here I am, like, just ready to go, and I know all my songs, I know all my parts, and so it was, I was slumming it, but I didn't know,
Yeah,
to me,
I
like,
totally get it.
This is a whole new world for me.
Totally get it.
So it was great, and it's taught me to be thankful for every opportunity that comes, and the people that I work with. It's like, okay, I really like this person, so I'll do this. I'll do this gig with them. And this person had my back or whatever. So I'm just thankful for all those opportunities, because they helped me. They helped me along the way tremendously.
That's great, man. A really good story. Thank you so much. Talk about, for some of these artists I'm gonna mention, how you got the gig, number one. Number two, if there's any cool or funny stories or just something interesting that happened in your experience. And then number three, anything you might have learned from the experience, either about playing, about business, or about life in general. Let's start with Jennifer Hudson.
The Jennifer gig was great because I don't think I've ever worked with a better singer in my life. I mean, she's one of the best that there ever was. She really is. And just what a humble, great personality. You know, she was an angel. And at the time, you know, it was right when, you know, she had this crazy tragedy in her family. So, and she was pregnant. So on top of that, you know, it was just all this stuff going on in her life, and just to see her just kill it every night, you know, and being sick from being pregnant, you know, and just going out there and singing the way that she did, it was incredible, you know. So it was just to be on the stage and listen to her every night was awesome, and getting to work with Ricky Minor was great. You know, someone like that, just a legend, you know, and someone I really admired before I moved out here, you know, and to get the opportunity to work with him was really great.
How'd you get that gig in the first place?
Well, we were I was playing with Robin, and they did a co-headlining tour together.
Oh, and Jennifer and Robin.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And they picked us to be the house band for both artists.
Wow.
So it was great. It was a lot of fun. And, you know, doing those 4-set gigs in Palm Springs every night was total great practice for something like this, you know, because I was used to playing, you know, 4 or 5 hours a night, you know, so doing 2 complete shows was nothing for me.
Yeah.
You know? So it was good to, you know, build that stamina.
That's awesome. So I would imagine financially you got paid separately for both gigs too, which was a great deal. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Good for you.
It was cool. It was a good opportunity. Probably one of the best tours I've ever done.
With Robin and Jennifer.
Yeah. You know, the people, like, everybody was happy, I guess, because we were getting taken care of, you know. And it was just, it was a lot of fun. The music was great. And, you know, just to be a part of something like that was a lot of fun.
And how about Robin? How'd you get the gig with Robin in the first place?
Well, I guess, you know, probably the one thing that I've come to realize with this business is, you know, it's all who you know. You hear it all the time, you know, and I've definitely, most of the great opportunities I've gotten, I've never had to audition for. I've never had to, you know, go through those politics. It's always like, you know, someone I know really well just pulling me in, you know. And I think you know, a lot of us could probably say that too, you know. But with Robin, I was playing with a singer named Andy Vargas, who he's the lead singer for Santana, and the drummer was.
Wait a minute, Santana's had loads of singers. Old right singer, okay.
Yeah, for probably the past 20 years, maybe.
Okay,
maybe 15, 20 years. Yeah. You know, so he's with them now. He was with them through like the Supernatural days and stuff, you know.
Right.
And the drummer on that gig was a good friend of mine named LB, who we hit it off right away. And he was Robin's drummer for years before that. And he had just gotten off tour. So he jumped on this gig with me. And we became good friends, like, right away.
You and the drummer. That's interesting because, you know, I've often heard guitar players saying to me one of their biggest weaknesses is that they only befriend other guitar players, and they said exactly. They said, "I wish I was, you know, guys. I wish I was smart enough and to befriend other, because that's where all the opportunities come from." Another guitar player. Yeah.
I'm totally the opposite.
Yeah,
you know,
interesting.
I don't know as many guitar players as I do everybody else, but we became great friends right off the bat. And he had just gotten off the road, and he didn't have really any work. And I was this guy in town that was like, I was the music director for all these different gigs and putting bands together. And I was sort of became that guy that people called when they got off the road. Like, hey, man, I'm back in town. You know, what's going on?
Got anything for me?
So,
Yeah.
That's
but how cool was that, getting to that slot after, like, sucking high in New York, and you come out there, you don't know anybody, and now you're the guy.
Yeah, I was the guy. Yeah,
cool
it was kind of funny. You know,
awesome.
it's I had the golden Rolodex, you know, I had everybody's, you know, all the great musicians. So me and LB sort of just kind of made this pact, like, hey man, you know, anything I get called for that I need a drummer, I'll put you on, and anything that you need a guitar player for, you put me on. So that whole like 6 months, every gig I did, LB was with me, whether he got us the gig or I got us the gig, you know. And he just called me one day and he was like, hey, you know, we're starting rehearsals with Robin. He's got a new record coming out, and their guitar player at the time was on tour. So they needed somebody to fill in for a couple of weeks. They were just like, you know, he's out, you know, so we just need somebody. And it's all new material, so it's like we're all starting at the same place. It wasn't like, you know, we were going to go in there and just kind of hash it out together. So they gave me the music, like his whole catalog. And I kind of stayed up. It was the night before, and I just stayed up and learned everything and just charted out what I needed to and whatever. So I think a week into the rehearsals, and Robin wasn't even there yet, the guitar player quit. And he was on the road with his band or whatever they were doing, and he wasn't coming back. So, and I was like totally up to speed. I knew all the material. And right away, like me and the guys in the band, like, you know, we just totally got along. And so Robin came in, and I think he had just lost his manager too. So he was totally in, you know, just disarray with everything, you know. So he had new management that he had to worry about, and, you know, the last thing he wanted to, you know, deal with was a new guitar player, you know. So here was this guy just filling in, you know. I was just this guy that, you know, he just was like, okay, whatever, you know. And we were rehearsing. Then one day, like, all these other guitar players just showed up, you know. And I was standing there. I was like, okay, you know, I had no expectations that I was going to get the gig, but I was killing it.
Like, just a little warning might have been helpful or something.
Yeah. And these were, you know, some of the biggest guys, like, doing the biggest gigs. You know, I remember Mike Scott was there, Justin Timberlake's guy, who played with Prince, just a whole bunch of dudes. And Robin was just like, hey man, you know, just hang out. I want to just try out some of these other guys, you know. And I was like, okay, you know. And I didn't know what to think at the time. You know, I didn't, because, you know, I was like, well, you know, this is not my gig, so I can't, you know. You can't really bitch, but that being said, they were playing through my stuff, you know. They were playing through my rig and stuff, so it was kind of weird. But, you know, whatever. You know, like I said, everything was a new experience for me. So I was just like, whatever, man. You know, do what you got to do, you know. Well, plus, so they actually, looking at it from a third-party point of view, there's no way Robin could have said that. There's no words he could have said that would have made you feel good about it. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing he could have said at all that would have been like, you know, you know, you had the warm and fuzzies inside. That was probably a tough thing for him to have to, like. Yeah. Right. So, you know, it was what it was. Yeah. You know, I think the guys in the band were a little more upset about it than I was, but it, you know, at the same time, you know, everything was a new experience for me, and I was just happy to be, you know, playing this music at the time. Sure. You know, and I knew in my heart, I knew I was the right guy, because even from that first time hearing him in the car, you know, I was like, this is a great place for me. I could be me in this situation, you know, and I was able to, you know. So they actually picked a guy, and then we were supposed to play Jay Leno. I was going to play the Leno show with them. And the night before, they told me, hey, you know, we're going to use one of these other guys. So, you know, thanks for your time or whatever. And I was like, cool, man. You know, I was upset because I had grown attached to everybody, you know, and I love the music, you know. So I was like, all good. And so I guess the next day they went and filmed the Leno show. And probably about 10 minutes after they were done, I got a phone call. And they were like, listen, man, you know, we need you back tomorrow. So I was like, okay. And they're like, we're doing this promo tour, you know, so we're just going to put you on for the promo tour, you know, and then, you know, we don't know what's going to happen after that. So I was like, cool, no problem, you know. So back to rehearsal, you know, and we did this promo tour. And to me, that was it. That was the end, you know. And they called me to do some more stuff. And then we actually went in the studio and did a record. We did like this Valentine's Day record. And I think that was sort of my my coming out time, where I guess he saw how I was in the studio, and it was all covers, and they were all songs that I knew, all songs that I had to play in that Palm Springs gig.
Holy shit.
So I was like totally, it was no brainer for me, and but I still didn't know if I had to gig or not, So I was like, all right, we finished the record. I was like, cool, and then they called me for another tour. They were like, we're gonna open up for Mary J. Blige. Can you do this tour? So I'm like, you got it, So we do the tour, and like after the tour is like, I'm like,
am I in the damn band already or what? Yeah,
So I was never, and this went on for years. So I was never like officially, welcomed into the band. In fact, we were in Mexico a couple weeks ago, and Robin was talking to these people, and they were like, how long do you know these guys? And he was like, hey, me and Joe, Joe's been with me for 10 years. And I was like, do I got the gig yet?
Yeah, that's so funny.
So yeah, I never officially was sworn in, but that's basically how it happened.
That's great.
So it was a cool, it was definitely frustrating for a while, but at the same time, I knew that I was the guy.
You knew you were in the right place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
it almost reminds me of, and I don't know the name of the movie. Remember that movie a few years ago? It was about a Slumdog Millionaire. Did you ever see that?
Mm-hmm.
Where they would ask him a really obscure question, but there was some bizarre event that happened random in his life that he happened to get exposed to that answer.
Right.
So it kind of reminds me of that, you had to do these songs, but all these songs, what you did for Palm Springs. So it's really cool how, you could never have connected those dots moving forward.
Exactly. And that's why, when people will ask me, is there anything you could have did different or whatever? You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because I was old enough to be aware and observe everything that was going on around me. And maybe that was, that played into part why things were working out for me, because, I was totally, observing everything, and each part of the puzzle made sense. All these things that I did, made sense, so I can totally, like I said, I can totally trace the path and why I needed to do all these things to get to this, to this spot, and what I need to do to get this spot, and, opportunities not happening for me and me being bummed about it, but something else happened, in its place that was even better, so it's like, I'm glad I didn't do that, and, like when I did the Christina Aguilera audition, that was kind of like a big deal for me, a big one for me, because of the other story, being in New York and seeing that band. I was like, man, I should be playing with her. And, I got called from my buddy who was the bass player at the time. He was like, come on, man, this is, come get this gig, So I was really excited for that. And it didn't work out. They made us do these dances and stuff. It was crazy. It was, one of just these auditions sometimes, you never know what they're looking for or what, what's going to happen. But I didn't get that one, and I was really bummed about it. And they went on tour, and I wound up getting an opportunity to play at this church in Orange County, Free Chapel, that became like one of the greatest experiences of my life. And it also, when those guys got off tour and they found out that I was doing that, all the guys in the band were like, yo, man, get me in that church.
What was so good about that's interesting. Because I hear this all the time, how good some church gigs are. What did you like about this?
Well, it was a real, I've always, and probably the first real live music I ever heard in my life was being at church when I was a kid. I grew up in church, and the first real guitar hero I had basically was the pastor in my church. They had this rock band. It was 70s, Cream kind of stuff, and he played like Hendrix and Clapton, and I got to see him play, all the time. So I was always into that stuff. And when I came out here, I realized that, a lot of guys make a living playing in church all the time. So I started doing that and became, part of that scene. and getting this opportunity was great. It was the music and everything else that went with it. It was just incredible, So they're a pretty big mega church, and just to be a part of that really, really was special, and and it's helped me. I've got a career doing that as well, So it's really great.
That's awesome.
So I was thankful for that. And it was another thing, like all these musicians would come back off the road, like, "Oh man, is there any dates open at the church for me?" And these are the biggest guys in the business, So that it was another thing, where my buddy was like, "Man, be thankful you didn't do the Christina Aguilera gig, because look at this, you got this now,
Yeah, whereas that would have been a one-shot deal, where this is, and you've gotten turned on. I'm sure you're not just in one church. I'm sure you're in, That's great, man. And then you become the center of, the guy again for the church now.
And it was really cool because, they let me go on the road. They would let me tour and still do, the MD part of the whole thing, still make sure the bands were together and all that stuff, So I was able to go out and tour and do what I had to do and still keep my position.
That's great.
So, which I still do. I'm at another church now, but it's the same thing.
When you say mega churches, like how many people are at a?
The one I'm at now has 12,000 members. So the church seats about 4,000. We do a couple of services a day. So yeah, it's pretty big. If you see the production of it, it looks like it's like a Pink Floyd concert. It's like the lights and everything. That's just icing on the cake. But it's great. I think if there's anything I'm really passionate about when it comes to playing, being there and doing that, because it really has a purpose. When you see what your purpose is there, and you see that it does help change people's lives, it's pretty awesome. And you go to a bar gig, and these guys are just getting drunk and fighting and stuff, and you're like, all right, well, that just happened.
Interesting. Well, that's good. So you're getting a little. So again, I keep hearing from you like different ways where you're kept grateful, I guess, is what I hear out of that. Different experiences, which is really nice. In this business, especially if you have some success, I see it all the time how people change and their egos get, inflated, and it's crazy. I think the opposite. I've had some times where I've had to check myself. You know what I mean? And it's almost like, well, God says to you, here, I'm going to slap you with a little dose of humble pie. Reminder.
And yeah, because this business is very easy to go from zero to hero, and hero to zero within the span of a couple of months. And when I meet somebody that does have that thing, I always kind of chuckle inside, like, your time's coming, man. Your humble pie will be served up pretty soon. So I always just try and be thankful for every opportunity, because I know how hard it is. And I know that there's tons of people all over the world, talented people that are, just as talented or more talented than me, that don't get to do what I do, And so I never take it for granted, ever.
It's interesting that you mention that, because I don't really come from much financially, money-wise at all. And, when I started having a little bit of business success, I said, well, I want to make sure I don't, I'm the same dude from the Bronx that I've always been, to be honest with you. But a guy one time mentioned something to me, and I have found it to be true. He said, money doesn't change you. It brings out more of what you are. So if you were like a little bit of an asshole before, you might become a giant asshole.
Absolutely.
And if you were a nice guy before, you're likely to be an even nicer person. And I found that pretty true. Most of the people, like 95% of everybody I've ever met, musicians, and I've been in business 20 years. I met loads of, very fortunate to meet and get exposed to loads of successful people. Most of them, 95%, are super nice, kind people.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're dealing with a business like what we do, it's all ego driven. You know what I mean? It really is. There's no other way around that one. Where your livelihood depends on if people like you or not.
It's very hard. I mean? Yes, I totally know what you mean.
And it is a struggle, so I really try and check myself, and not just around musicians, around people too, and I always want to give back and try and instill that wisdom into the younger people too, because I think it's really important, because really people only see the good stuff. They only see the TV shows, they only see the the big stages and the celebrities and everything, but that's just a little part of it. There's a whole other side to this thing that isn't glamorous, and it's very, it definitely can eat a little bit of your soul from you. There's a movie. Have you seen the Hired Gun movie?
Man, I just finished watching it, and I don't know Liberty DeVito, but I got to be honest with you. I got to believe there's more than one side to that story.
No, I know firsthand that there is, but
and you're the second person that told me that.
Yeah. There was definitely a lot of truth in that. Growing up on Long Island, those guys were gods to us. Billy Joel is bigger than everything on Long Island. But and that band was like, forget it. Those guys are superhuman.
Absolutely.
To us. But there's two sides to everything, man. So it's still a tough place to be.
I'm sure.
Being in the position that we are, because you're never safe. You can never take what you do for granted. Believe me, I've been there. I've lost gigs because, I was too short. I lost gigs because I was white. I lost gigs because I was a guy and they wanted to go with a girl band. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's not they don't care about you, but their vision is more important than your livelihood. I know somebody that was playing for this big artist, and they were on retainer. They had benefits, they had everything. And one day the music director was like, "Hey, your band would be really cool if you had an all girl band." And they were like, "Okay," and fired those guys and got a whole new band, and there goes these guys that all have families, they're all depending on their income, it's
but and I'm not meaning to be cold about this at all, but the other side of the coin is, what you're getting into when you do it, and it's just like when Robin said, "Hey man, I'm going to just check out these other guys," you were not promised anything, and you handled it appropriately. You said, "Okay, I wasn't promised anything. Man, this is the way the shit goes, and I'm going to roll with the punches." So I mean, I get it, but you got to be aware of.
But that's the thing. That's where the ego comes in. And people start to think that they're invincible. Yeah. You know what I mean? I play with so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. Well, watch out, because so-and-so might want to just take a DJ on tour and use some dancers, That's happened to me too. I was supposed to go on the road, and they were like, "Oh, you don't need a band. Just take a DJ and some artists, and some dancers, and, have the band record the show. And you'll save a ton of money, and it'll look cool." It's like, well, wait a second, we were supposed to go on tour for a year. What happened with that? So that's the whole ego thing. Yeah. And that's why I always chuckle when I meet, somebody that's a little arrogant or whatever. I'm like,
yeah, your life will fix you, man. Yeah, I know. And I guess I should be, I've had a lot of setbacks like everybody else, so I'm very, and I always try to have now in business multiple plans, A, B, C, D, and, kind of have 2 or 3 things going on at once, because I don't I don't know what's going to happen, you know?
Right. But those, those things, if you can take them away as learning experiences and lessons, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can tremendously grow from it. A lot of guys don't, they blame everybody else. I always say no one loses your gig for you or your job for you. It's, you have to, you have to look internally, at some point and say, well, what did I do wrong? Or what could I do to make this not happen again or whatever? You know what I mean? So I think, again, the ego, you got to check yourself. You got to humble yourself because somebody's going to do it for you, if you don't.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And as a matter of fact, back in 2009, I had a series of really, really bad life events happen. And I went out of my way once they were over. I sat down and I said, man, what was my role in each of these things? And for me, I like doing that because, number one, I don't feel like a victim.
Right.
If I'm able to say, you know what, in this particular case, that's on me, great. It sucks. It happened anyway. It's right. It sucks.
Right.
So I wasn't a victim there. I screwed up, but next time, now I know to do X, Y, and Z and don't get in that position. And I think the other thing is so for me, it doesn't make me, it allows me to not feel like a victim. Then the second thing is like you just said, it allows me to maybe grow and get, you got humped, get something out of it, Make lemonade, lemonade out of lemons.
I think, you have to have some wisdom to think like that. You know what I mean? These, a lot
I wouldn't
of
go that far.
or at least a little bit of experience.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And the older you get, the more you start to see
age.
The three sides to the coin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it helps. And that's why I look at things very differently now. Than I did 10 years ago. 5 years ago. And especially in our business now, because things are constantly changing. It's constantly a whole other struggle.
Sure.
It's like, so.
But it sounds like you've set yourself up similarly now at this point where A, you don't take things for granted, but B, you have a lot of irons in the fire now. You got Robin, you got the church stuff going, you got songwriting, you got production, and I'm sure you got 3 or 4 other things that we haven't even discussed that you're keeping to pursue and developing because if A, B, and C falls, hey, man, that's cool. We'll take a little hit for a couple of weeks, but I got B, C, D, and E, and I'm going to work B up to A again,
Yeah. You have to think in addition to and not instead of. In these times, because it's just the reality of the way things are now,
No, totally, man. Totally. Speaking of that, what else are you working on now that you're excited about?
I've been, for the first time, I've started to actually commit it and say it, and I'll say it here. So this way it'll at least be out there.
Good.
But I started, putting the wheels in motion to do my first actual album, guitar instrumental stuff that I've been, working on since I was, 13 years old, So, I've just gotten back into that frame of mind again, and just it's keeping me going, So, I'm just compiling tons of riffs that I've had over the years and melodies and trying to make sense of all that and put together, I guess you could say, my autobiography of music.
Sure.
I went to music school. I have tons of music that I've written, from college and, high school and stuff. And, would love to, sort of tie it all in together in my life story in notes. I guess,
why not?
So that I'm excited about. And
have you do you have like guys in mind that you're going to be putting together for this?
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of great friends from, childhood that are great musicians up until now, guys that I've, been working with out here. And I'd like it to be an all-star kind of thing, just, get everybody involved. So that's the plan.
Awesome.
So let's see. I'm putting it out there.
Well, man, I'll put this out there. When your album gets done, you come back on the show and let's promote it. Let's reveal it. Yeah, man, I'd be happy to support that. Man, no, you're awesome.
Cool.
You grew up in New York City. What was your childhood like?
It was really great. I think that, I owe who I am and what I do to my parents. I was an only child, and so I got all the love and attention that I could possibly get, and support beyond support from them. But they were big music fans, and my dad especially, he's a total like audiophile, like big record collector, thousands of albums. I grew up in basically a record store in my basement. That's awesome. So it was great to be exposed to all different kinds of music. And, my dad they were big Elvis fans. So I was out of the womb. That was basically the first music I ever heard, from the day I was born, was Elvis. And, but my dad loved Motown. He loved a lot of doo-wop music. There was just everything that I could possibly, be exposed to. Country music, opera. He loved, the Italian music, and, Black Sabbath. I remember like finding a Black Sabbath album in his collection. I'm like, what's this? And, so it was great in that sense. He was always pushing me. There was a guitar, in my house, when I was a kid, and I just pick it up and I didn't know, I watched Elvis, just him holding the guitar was just like so iconic.
Yeah.
It was like, he didn't even play. He just stood on stage and it was just there, but I learned how to strum, from watching him and I'd pick up this guitar and I would just start to like play like vocal melodies. It's all I could do. I didn't know chords. I didn't even know what the notes were. I would just find the right notes and, which I guess was a good thing because
develop
my ears really, really well, but yeah, getting back to my childhood, I mean, it was great. It was just, I'm really proud of, where I grew up, but also the time that I grew up. I'm sure we're, similar in age, just growing up, especially in New York in the late 70s and being around that and, absorbing that, and in the 80s and just what things were like back then, and just I think we're probably the last generation to really experience everything that's been happening as far as technology and just how the world was run back then as opposed to now. We really got to see the whole the whole picture.
It's like the Renaissance age in the last 25, 30 years. It's like everything has been changed.
Yeah.
It brings up a good question. I always feel that growing up in New York City added tremendous value to my life in so many different ways. And I was curious, specifically, what areas have you seen those benefits in through growing up in New York?
Well, definitely the street smarts have helped me, like I was saying when I got out here, to have a plan and to execute it. I realized how laid back everybody is out here, and I'd make sure I'd show up early to the, to an audition or the gig. And a lot of times like, oh, you're the first guy here. You got the gig, like things like that, to always be on your toes and to always, be looking, in 360,
Oh, totally.
360 vision,
The eyes and back of your head. Yeah.
Yeah. That definitely, has been on my side here, where I don't feel like I have one up on everybody, but I definitely, maybe have a little more, my ears are kind of fine tuned.
Your spidey sense.
Really well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I totally get that, man.
And also, sticking to who I am. I don't think I've changed that much as I've grown up. I've gotten wiser, I've gotten older, but I think, learning to love who I am and not try and conform to what people think you should be. It's like, especially now in the last 5-6 years with all of social media, I mean, we live in an age of followers. You know what I mean? It's like, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, and because of the music business changing and everything, and I see the desperation in people, more than ever to fit in to what, they think will gain them success or being liked by people, So I haven't haven't really conformed to any of that. You know, I'm who I am, and I'm going to stick to that. And you can hear it in my playing. You can see it when you talk to me, you know, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I've stuck to my guns. And, you know, being from New York, where everybody, you know, was doing everything they could to stand out, to be themselves, you know. And here I see it, and I see it in, you know, with guitar players especially a lot, you know, just people, you know, there's so many guys that I could just close my eyes and I can't tell the difference. It's them, you know. It's just, you know, people are just like taking each other's souls and just melding them together, you know.
Yeah,
so I was really sticking to who I am and believing in that and not compromising in that way. You know, it's that toughness, man. You know, you can't get around it, you know.
No, I agree. So, it's kind of, I had a seminar back in 2009, a marketing seminar I did, and this is when social media was first coming out, and my perception of it was, and it's even that way stronger, that the reason it's so popular is because people need to be heard. Most people don't feel like anybody's listening to them.
Right.
And that's why, and that's why you have, and why I don't participate in like a Twitter, because you got people, or even on Facebook, you know, and someone, I don't give a shit about your fish tacos. You know, I really don't. And I presume that you would never give a shit about mine. So I would never produce, I would never say that. But like when someone says, you know, hey, I had chicken tonight, and you'll have 8 people say, oh, what kind? I don't get that. Like,
it's, you know, we could spend a whole other day talking about all that stuff. You know what I mean? But it's crazy just to see, you know, everybody's got a voice. I didn't join social media until maybe 2 years ago, so I was very late to all of this. And I'm, you know, there's a lot of me that wishes I never did. You know, it's like.
But I think you have to in your business. In your business, you have to. The same way I have to in my business. You have to.
I just keep it to my music stuff. I don't. There's no personal anything in there. You know, even, you know, rarely do I put a picture up of my wife or my family or whatever. I just keep it to music, guitar, and, you know, whatever, you know, and I think that saves me a lot of
anxiety,
whatever, that everybody else is going through, you know?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's like being invited to a party where everyone you've ever met in your life
is at the party as well. Yeah. It's kind of funny like that.
It's like the crazy guy down the street that goes through my mail is there, you know, and the kid that used to piss his pants next to me in kindergarten is there, you know. It's like, it's just this crazy world, you know. So I try and take it with a grain of salt, you know, and just keep it fun, you know what I mean, and not to get so heavy with it, because I've seen people that I love, you know, seeing these sides of them. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
You know, where did all this come from? So, you know, and maybe that's part of my roots. Maybe that's to be guarded in certain ways, you know.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
You know, and maybe that's, you know, being an only child too, you know, growing up with no siblings, you know, where I had to keep a lot of things to myself, you know, and deal with things that maybe I couldn't go to my brother for, you know, or I couldn't go to my sister for,
I get that.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, I just kind of deal with it. You know, like when I see people ask for stuff on Facebook, you know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm like, wow, I could have handled that on my own.
Yeah,
you know, why do you have to ask the whole world?
Yeah, coping, you know, skills,
I mean?
are like surrendered. I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, you know, that's fine. You know, not everybody, you know, thinks like me or whatever, you know. So I just try not to be judgmental with that stuff, you know, and just, you know, try and ignore what I know will be bad in my brain.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I never engage anybody. I never fight. I never share my opinion on there about anything, politics, this and that, because I don't give a shit that somebody likes or dislikes it, and it's not even important enough for me to like it or dislike it.
Exactly. And that's kind of how I look at it. It's like, you know, what do people care what I have to say about, you know, what's going on in the world? You know, I play guitar, you know. You know, in the big scheme of things, you know, it's really not that important.
No, I totally get what you're saying, man. It's like I had a guy in the gym at the elections. He kept telling me to come over and vote a certain way, and I'm like, dude, listen, do you think spending 30 seconds with somebody here in between sets, I mean, do you really think you're going to convince, like, sway people? I mean, just relax, enjoy yourself, drink some water, just talk about the football game or whatever.
Right.
Man.
My favorite was, election time when people would say, if you're going to vote this way or do this, unfriend me now. And it's like, well, you don't even know these people. Most of these people you don't even know. They're not your friends. And, what kind of friend are you to say that?
Yeah. Oh, I know.
But, again, that's a whole other conversation for another time.
No, totally, man.
But, yeah, man, I had a good childhood. I have a great family. It's funny. My mom and my dad, their sides of the family married each other. So my dad's side of the family married my mom's side of the family. So it became like one big, huge family,
Wait a minute. So, now you're concerning me. How did that...
it's the closest...
That's not supposed to happen when you're from New York. Wait a minute.
So, well, my parents got married, and my dad's brother married my mother's sister.
Oh, okay.
And then my dad's other brother married my mother's first cousin, and it was like,
Oh, wow.
This crazy melding of two families,
That is wild.
Yeah. So, and they all live in Florida. they all moved out.
Okay. Yeah. So you got a ton of close family down there.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I do.
That's good. That's good.
But yeah, I don't have a lot of friends. I don't have a lot of real close friends. But my family is everything to me. Those are the people that'll take a bullet for me, and I would do the same for them. And we're Italians, we're fighters, So I've been blessed with that. I have great godparents who are like my second parents, and just great cousins. I didn't have brothers and sisters growing up, so they those are my brothers and sisters. And so I've been real fortunate, and they're all super supportive, and it's great, because I think a lot of it too, especially with my mom being gone, I just want them to be proud of me. You know what I mean? I could care less what the rest of the world thinks.
No, I'm sure they're super proud of you, man. Not because you're a success at guitar, because you're just like a good human being. Hey, hold on one second. I have a 15-year-old arthritic dog who's got anxiety trying to bust through. She's going to scratch through my door. Hang on.
Go do your thing, man.
Oh, my Lord. Come on in. Okay, relax. Good girl. I'm sorry about that. Just come here.
No. Believe me, we're an animal house here, so
yeah, man.
It's
she's. It's really funny, man. She's got severe anxiety. She's like 15, so she's.
Oh wow!
But this is what happened. So the vet basically, she really freaks out. I don't take like anxiety pills or anything. I'm not into that, but so they prescribed her like low dose of like I guess baby Xanax. So here's the thing though. We started giving it to her. She lost her soul. She just like someone would knock on the. So I cut it out, and she got her life back. But so this is what we did, sweetie. Come here. We went to Colorado last year, and I bought a bunch of gummies. And I said, you know what? I bet you if I cut these up. No, but if I cut them in thirds and I give them to her when she's freaking out, it's fine. She's not, she just mellows out for the.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not giving her Xanax, so she was mental. Come here. There you go. Sorry, man. She's just totally.
Oh, no worries at all. That's awesome, man.
Let's talk gear for a few minutes, and I'm only a few minutes because you've been so generous with your time. So I want to let people know. So Joe's in his home office, and behind him there's a plaque of the band, The Last Waltz, next to Robin Thicke, next to Elvis. And I said to him when we first started, that's the only place on the planet where you see those three symbols next to each other. I thought it was cool, and he's got a bunch of guitars and like wall-to-wall amps in there. So what are your go-to? And I've seen I'm on your Facebook, and by the way, you do post really cool shit on Facebook. It's like,
oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm playing this gig here. This is my, it's just interesting. It's not like you don't. Here's my fucking cheeseburger I had. You don't do that. It's like
nobody gives a crap what I. And it's even like with the videos and stuff, you know, I try and post videos of me actually playing with other people, you know, and playing on stage.
Great. It's all really cool.
I think that's important because a lot of these kids, you know, in their bedrooms, you know, they really need to get out there and play with people. You know?
Absolutely.
But, yeah. Guitars, I'm obsessed with them. I got lots of them.
I know. So what is like your number one go-to right now? And then like what would round out your top three?
It's tough. You know, there's what I call the big four. You know, you have your Strat, your Les Paul, your Telly, and I guess your semi-hollow guitar, you know. And I love them all to death. They're all my favorite guitars. And the problem is like I wish I was playing them all at the same time. You know, so whenever I play one, you know, I have my Telly, and I'm like, damn, I wish I had, you know, freaking, you know, power of a Les Paul. Or if I'm playing my Les Paul, I'm like, I wish I had that Strat, you know, neck pickup or whatever. You know, it's this cycle that I'm always like, man, I love this guitar, but I need this one for this section. So for the last, like 8-9 years, I've been working with the Kiesel family, who is the Carvin brand. And I started using their amps years ago.
Carvin amps.
Yeah. And I started playing their guitars shortly after that, just to get something that would get me in the ballpark of all the things that I love. So I guess I'll show you.
Yeah, man.
My number one really that I've been using most of the time where you see me with Robin or at church or whatever is this. It's like a semi-hollow Carvin guitar. And it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, man. It's just it's the one that I always pick up whenever I want to practice, whenever I want to be creative. This guitar is my go-to, and it's a semi-hollow guitar, but it's got a lot of little tricks in it. And the most beautiful part here is the heel. If you see the heel,
it's like
freaking seamless, man. The neck
is that one piece? Is that a one-piece guitar?
From here, it is, you know, but it's a work of art, you know.
So let me just describe. That's a rosewood fretboard,
it's a
right?
Rosewood fretboard. It's a mahogany body and it's got a koa top, so it's got a little bite to it, which is cool because I can get a little bit of twang out of it. Like if I can, you know, I can split the pickups and get a little more bite out of it, and it's got, you know, it does everything I needed to do at once, you know, and this is I guess my number one.
So let me describe it. It's like, it looks like kind of like a Les Paul shape. Yeah,
it's shaped like a thicker Les Paul.
Semi-hollow, looks like, right?
Semi-hollow.
F-holes.
It's got a block here. It's got F-holes in it, and it's sort of like, I guess you could call it, I think they call it deep brown.
Yeah, like quilted. It's a real nice quilted top, though. Really pretty.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful it's guitar. Koa, and got DiMarzio's in here.
I was going to ask you that.
I'm a New York Italian guy from the 80s. So every guitar I have is
it's got DiMarzio's
with DiMarzio's in them, and these are PAF. You know, just give you like more of a vintagey, you know, Les Paul 335, you know, sound.
Are they one of your sponsors, DiMarzio?
Yeah.
There you go. Shout out to DiMarzio. This guy's a good guy to work with. He's
they've been taking care of me for a long long time, and I've been using DiMarzio's since I was like 12 years old.
Wow.
You know? So they've been in like every guitar I've had.
That's great.
I remember, I was at a music store years ago when I was a kid, and do you know who Al Pitrelli is? No. Have you heard of Al Pitrelli? He's from Long Island, and he was one of the founders of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Okay, and they're coming down.
You know,
that's so funny.
He's the man. He was like, you know, growing up, he was like the heir to the throne after Steve Vai. He was like one of those guys. But he used to teach at this music store. And I remember being there one day as a kid, and he was talking to some guy, and I just heard him say, "Hey, man, you need to put some DiMarzio's in that thing." And he was like, "You're not cool unless you have DiMarzio's." And here's a 12-year-old kid. I was like, I'll do anything that I have to do to be cool.
Right,
so I was like, let me go get some. I didn't even know what they were. I didn't know if they were strings. I didn't know, I had no idea. So that sort of like sparked and I don't even know if he uses DiMarzio pickups. But
that's so funny, man. Yeah, I could see me doing something like I didn't even know if they were strings, pickups. What the hell?
Yeah. I just brought my guitar to the shop. And I was like, can you put DiMarzio's on this? And I actually have that guitar right here, my first like real Strat. But so these are DiMarzio PAFs in here, and I can split them, and it has a piezo bridge in it, so I can play acoustic on here. And it also has a 13-pin connection here, so I can hook it up to a synth.
Oh, so how come you have two? It's two jacks.
One is for the electric, and one's for the acoustic.
Oh, so very cool, man.
I can separate them. When I was playing with the Backstreet Boys, there was a lot of songs that we had to play acoustic and electric at the same time. And this one, like all the sound guys were always like, man, I can't believe that's an electric guitar. The acoustic sounds better than any, regular acoustic that we've ever plugged in. It sounds amazing. So it's a special one. And the neck is just perfect.
It's thin? Is it thin?
It's pretty... I wouldn't say it's thin at all. It's definitely on the thicker side, but it's not like really like a baseball bat. It's just right, And this one has stainless steel frets.
That makes such a difference. It's like cheating, man. I was very hesitant
at first, and I've heard such mixed things, but you know what? I jumped in, and now I wish I had them on all my guitars because they feel good, and I really don't think it does anything to the sound.
It's like cheating. It's that easy. It's that much easier to play.
These are pretty big. They're pretty tall frets, and they're jumbos, and it feels right to me. Everything. And this is a perfect guitar that I can go to any of my other guitars and play, and everything feels comfortable after this. So I would say this is my number one. I have a few other Kiesel carbon guitars. These are like the carved top ones, which I guess you could say they're very similar looking to something else.
Yeah.
But they really have a lot of vibe to them, which is why I dig them. This one's a 24 fret. This is the one I used on the MTV Awards, the Miley thing. And when we did Stern and stuff, I used this one. And this is just like a rock machine, man. This thing sounds incredible.
It's a beautiful guitar. It's like ocean. It looks from here. I can't see it's like ocean blue or
sometimes
like seafoam green. Yeah,
green. Yeah. Depending on the light, sometimes it looks silver. But again, DiMarzio's in here, and Floyd Rose.
You got a Floyd.
This will tell you my age and the kind of stuff I was into. And another cool thing, I have to give a shout out to Mr. Adam Reaver, who, if you guys don't know who he is, he has a company called FU Tone, and he does these upgrades to Floyd Rose bridges that just totally, everything makes a little bit of a difference, but each little difference becomes a big difference.
Yeah,
sure. In the end, So I get these big brass blocks from him and these noiseless screws that he puts in the Floyd Rose stuff, and it just totally gives you that sustain and stuff that maybe kind of lacks when you use these.
And what's his name for people who want to check him out?
Adam Reaver.
Rever.
Riever.
Riever.
I
Adam
think so.
Reaver.
Don't quote or Reiver. Anyways, company's called FU Tone.
FU Tone.
FU-tone.com.
Awesome.
Just look him up on
Shout out
Instagram or Facebook. But he's been all my guitars that have Floyd Rose in them are totally tricked out with his stuff, And strings, DR strings, I've been using since 1998.
Wow.
So yeah, so they're Northern New York. I kind of keep it close to home, man. So they're from Jersey, but I mean, I've been using their strings and nothing but their strings since like 98
That's
or whatever.
Great, man. Very cool. So that would be, and number 3. So the first two, your Carvins, would number 3 be a Carvin as well?
I will show you probably my most prized one.
Yeah. That I'll tell you what looks cool. Those white amps right behind you. What is?
Oh yeah. These are my babies.
What are they?
This one right here. This is a divided by 13. The model is JRT 915. So you can switch it. It's got 2 sets of tubes in it. It's got 6 V6 tubes, and it's also got EL84s. So you can go from like kind of like a Fender Deluxe kind of thing to like an AC15. It's a small watt. It's a 15 watt thing.
That's really freaking cool, because a lot of people want that. They want to have a Fender sound. They don't want to have a Gibson sound.
Yeah,
that's
this
great.
All those bases in the studio. I mean, this thing is my best friend. I use it on everything. And then here,
and just so people know, that's a 9-watt head, and it's got to weigh like 30 pounds. It looks enormous. So there's a lot of stuff.
It's actually really small. It's actually,
oh, really?
It's really like this one right here. This one, this tiny one.
Yeah, it looks.
So it's.
Oh wow! It looks big from here. That's really cool.
Well, you know what it is? I guess compared to the cabinet and stuff.
It's like half the size of the cabinet. And I'm like, holy crap! Yeah. But it's a 2x12 cabinet, and real cool looking. Just really like clean lined, nice aesthetics.
Oh yeah! If you check out the Divided by 13 stuff, their stuff is really classy. And Fred, another Italian out here, he makes great stuff. You know, he's got amps that will give you. They all have his sound, which is really cool. Every Divide by 13 I've played has that thing to it, but it'll put you in those different ballparks, which are, you know, essential, you know, especially in the studio. You know, I can just bring this thing and some pedals, and I can kind of get everywhere with that, you know, and still keep the volume kind of controlled. And next to it is is the big guns. My Blankenship, Roy Blankenship. He's another guy out here that makes incredible amps. And this one is a Variplex. And
is it like a Marshall Plex, like a Plexi?
It's a 68, it's a 68 Plexi. It's Van Halen 1 all the way, man. It's you turn this thing up, and it gives you that sound. And the cabinet's a custom made cabinet that I had made by this guy Kerry Wright out here. He's like the Rolls Royce of cabinet makers out here. So
that's awesome, man. You got some really cool.
And then the Legacies. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, I see them. Yeah, I see them. You got a bunch of them.
Yeah. I have 3 right now here, and 3 4x12s, and then 3 heads, and I have a 212 in the closet. And that's where I keep all my. That's where I record. I have it all mic'd up and ready to go.
Very cool, man.
It's and the guitars. Yeah, the guitars are.
Oh, there you go. I'm looking at it. He's showing me the mother load here, man. Of all.
Yeah.
That's a nice. I like that stand.
Yeah, well, it's 2 put together. It's 2. Oh, yeah, let me see. 2 boats put together.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
I can't see the camera.
No, that's all. It looks good. And he's got a soundproof room. It's got the baffles on the wall and stuff. Yeah. Very cool.
This is my clubhouse over here. So yeah, I'll show you a few more. I have this is probably my most prized one, because my wife got it from me for our first Christmas. This is my custom shop Gibson ES355, and this is my baby
guitar, man.
This guitar got smashed actually years ago.
What happened?
At the Gibson amphitheater. So Gibson, we were playing.
You have a Veritone on there? I can't see that.
No, not on this one.
Okay.
I actually have a 345 that has the Veritone.
That's beautiful, man. I've never seen a quilted.
You'll never see one, man. The story behind this guitar is
very nice looking.
Is really special. So this one, and it got smashed. It fell off the stage at the Gibson amphitheater, and the headstock and part of the neck over here. Just it looked like someone just took it and bashed it against a tree, and Gibson wouldn't fix it. They were like, it can't be fixed. You have to re-neck the guitar, and it was like they had the guitar for a couple of years, and I just really thought that there was no hope for it, so I just kind of kept it in the case for like 6-7 years, and then I brought it to this shop out here to take the pickups out, and I was going to swap them and put them in another guitar. And they were like, we could fix this. I'm like, it was kind of like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. You can't fix this car, Spicoli.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fix this. They're like, we can fix it. And they were like, it's going to take about a year, but we can put it back and it'll be perfect. So they did. Tina from the amp shop out here, she she resurrected this thing, and yeah, it plays better than ever. It stays in tune better than it ever did. So
that's awesome. Beautiful guitar, man.
I don't take it out anymore. I learned my lesson. Don't take your really, prized possessions out on the road with you unless you have a good security team with you.
That's awesome, man.
And I have this
really
one.
pretty guitar.
This one real quick. I get, these are my children, so I get really
man. Let's do this.
This guitar.
Wow. Okay, so let me describe this. It looks like a green marble. It's got a massive Floyd Rose. I mean, it looks like a spaceship docked up on the side, on the front of his guitar, with some sort of just one single humbucker pickup.
Yeah. So if anybody
big fat neck. What is that? Oh, I know that guy. I've heard of him. Yep,
it's Joe Augello. For any Steve Vai fans out there, I was, and I still, I guess I am, obsessed with Steve Vai. And he's one of my, biggest influences.
Is that a 6 or 7 string?
This is a 6 string.
Okay.
And his childhood friend Joe made some of those crazy guitars for him back in the day that were on MTV, the Flame one, and there was one that was shaped just like this that had holes in it, and they called it the
Man, stay right there. I'm going to do a screenshot. Hold that up. I want to see if I can get this. That is such an unusual guitar. I'd like to put that as your photo. Okay, thank you. That is so freaking cool.
Yeah, it's definitely sort of a one of a kind.
Yeah.
And I've had this guitar now 30 years. On Christmas Day this year, it'll be 30 years.
Wow.
And, yeah, so Joe
That's
made
amazing.
this. A bunch of Steve's guitars got stolen. I think this was one of the ones that he was going to give him to replace. And my awesome parents got it. They intercepted it,
That's great, man.
Yeah, so this is, again, FU tone. He hooked me up with a nice big block for it. And this thing sounds incredible, man. It's a rock machine. It's
with one pickup only.
Yeah, it's a another DiMarzio X2N. It's like the hottest pickup you can get. It's just balls to the wall.
It looks like it's going to launch itself into space any second.
Yeah. So
do you like maple? Do you prefer rosewood necks or maple necks, or it doesn't matter?
It depends on the guitar to me. Like my Telly. I think Tellys need to have maple necks on it. This is my gold Telly.
Yep.
And it just, to me, when I hear, James Burton or whatever, the Elvis stuff, that's, all that stuff. I mean, that's maple neck, man. That just, and, a lot of people associate a maple neck with being bright, but that's really not the case. There's definitely a lot of warmth to it, So, depends on the guitar. I have a Strat that has a rosewood board. I have this Candy Tangerine.
Oh, that's a sweet looking Strat.
1960 Relic Strat.
Wow, that is really cool
incredible.
looking.
Yeah. And,
that's a custom shop?
Yeah.
Very cool looking, man.
Board. But I definitely, probably my next thing to get another Strat with a maple board. I've gone through Strats like crazy all my life. I'm not really like you never really see me playing Strat these days, but when I do, this is the one, but I've gone through so many, and this so far has been my favorite. And but yeah, I would like to get one with a maple board, maybe pretty much the same guitar, Do you
have any guitars with ebony boards?
Yeah, actually the carved top, the carvings, the blue one, this has an ebony board.
I love ebony, man. To me, that's the best. That feels, it's like
this one.
It's like rubbing a woman. It's so soft, man.
Oh, dude, this is my first real Strat that I got.
With the HSS setup and
DiMarzios
and
Floyd Rose.
Yeah,
you can tell when this guitar was made.
Yeah,
it's quite. It was like a regular, standard Japanese Fender Strat. This was like my first good electric guitar that I got after the crappy ones that I had, and so I put a Warmoth neck on it. That same guy, Joe Augello, he hot rodded this one. Put the same pickup as my Gem.
Yeah.
And there's 2 DiMarzios in here as well. But yeah, you can see this is a 30-year-old ebony board, man, and it's like butter.
Yeah.
This neck is probably my favorite neck, and this is the guitar that I really cut my teeth on, man. This is the one that I really learned how to be me on, you know. So there's no finish on the neck. It's like I still bust it out and play it, man, because it still sounds great.
It probably feels like an old friend.
Oh, it totally is. This is, if I had a brother or a sister, this is the one.
This is the one. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So there's that. And, you know, there's a bunch of other things here, and I have some in the other room. But yeah, that's my.
Very cool.
Those are my go-to ones, you know.
Hey,
and acoustics too. Acoustics. Wait, we're not done yet.
There you go. No, it's all good.
This is my McPherson.
Wow. Guitar. Okay, so it's a what do you call that body? Like a kidney.
Yeah, it's got a sound hole up on top, and this guitar, it's kind of like listening to like 5.1 surround
Dolby sound.
You know?
Yeah.
Like no matter where you stand in the room, the guitar just projects equally. It's incredible. It's just I've never heard an acoustic sound as good as this thing. So
I've had several really good guitarists, guys like your level, tell me that the McPherson, that's it. It's like the beginning and end.
You can't really get better than this. I have my J200, my Elvis guitar over there.
I saw that. That looked pretty cool with that little like looks like a P90 pickup. It's obviously not, but it's really cool.
Yeah, it's a LR Baggs electric pickup. But yeah, like in the studio, if I lay it down with this and then do another track with that, I mean, it's heavenly, man.
That's awesome.
This is a beauty. So yeah, check them out if you don't know
McPherson. Where are they? Are they out of California?
No. They're
like Ohio or something, aren't they? Or
it's like Wisconsin or something. I forget.
No, you're right. I think it's like Wisconsin or Minnesota or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And I've been meaning to go visit them all these years. And they just, I mean, this is a work of art. And then this is just, you know, they have guitars that are just even way more over the top than this. You know, if you go on their site, it's like an art gallery, you know. But they sound and play the way they look. You know exactly what this thing's going to sound like when you pick it up, you know. So it's I love it. And play it every day.
Very cool, man.
So, yeah, man.
Hey, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions because I really appreciate your time and you've been so generous.
Sure, man.
Tell me something about yourself people would either be surprised to hear or would find a little odd.
That's a good one. I don't know. That's a tough one for me. You probably have to ask my wife about that.
She might have a list. She's like my wife.
Yeah, she would know better than I would. I don't know. I'm kind of normal when it comes to that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know if I have any odd kind of tendencies or whatever. You know, I'm just a guy that plays guitar, man. And I love making music. That's what I do. I don't really have any other hobbies. You know what I mean? I like to eat. You know, it's about it.
So your wife being from Scotland, did she have to learn how to cook like Italian food for you or something? Or?
Yeah, well, the good thing, you know, when we moved back to Long Island and we lived walking distance from my parents' house, she got some, you know, great one-on-one time with my mom.
Right.
Who, you know, I'm an Italian kid from New York. They don't cook better than my mother. Right, sure. That's what we all say.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
So, but yeah, she can cook. You know, we both do. So that's, you know,
that's
something
cool.
That, like, you know, we grill a lot here. The weather's always nice, so there's always barbecue going. You know, but we like to eat. We're foodies.
Awesome. So. Does she eat still like? Because my wife still eats like she's in England, like in wartime England. Like she still eats like beans on toast or beans with potatoes.
But she'll go there, you know. But yeah, my wife is. I don't know where she came from Scotland, but she should be like 500 pounds the way she eats. But she's so skinny.
That's great.
So I look at food and I gain weight.
Dude, I'm the same way. I have to.
Oh, you know, and you know what it's like once you pass that certain age, it's harder to, you know, to keep it down and stuff, you know. But yeah, we love food.
That's awesome.
You know, It's all we talk about.
That's good, man. It's a nice thing to enjoy together.
Yeah, totally.
And Joe, last question. What's the biggest, you mentioned this earlier, what do you think the biggest change in your personality has been over the last 10 years?
Well, I've definitely gained a lot of wisdom, and my faith is definitely gotten stronger, in the last 10 years. And I think that, being the, what I believe in, and, being around, a lot of great Christian people, I think that that's always been, something where I've seen the growth in myself, and I, try and continue to grow that way. And, just to give back, man, just to take this wisdom that I've gained, not just in music, but in life. And if I can help somebody, through something or whatever, that's really where I'm at, But yeah, I think that's definitely been something that I've seen in me, in this last bunch of years, just wanting to share my wisdom and stuff with people who I know need it, or want it,
Well, you shared a hell of a lot on this call, man, and I can't thank you enough. No, seriously, man, you've been so sweet and generous and
anytime.
Kind, and I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough for your time. Let's talk about where people can get turned on to you online and some of the cool projects that people should check out of yours. Yeah.
Well, my website's down at the moment, but we're putting like just a regular start page, a home page up with some kind of news. So hopefully that'll be up soon. JoeAugello.com.
And it's Joe, JoeAugello, JoeAugello.com.
Yes. And, my Facebook page, Joe Augello Music, as well as Instagram and Twitter. It's all the same, Joe Augello Music. So you can check out, you won't see what I ate for lunch today, but maybe what I'm listening to. Or
And you just did something with Sammy. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this. So for years, I've been working writing and producing with this really talented artist named Tom Solis, and just this incredibly gifted singer-songwriter, great kid. I've known him since he was 17, 18 years old, and just watched him grow, and he's doing really well. But his uncle is Sammy Hagar, and last year they wrote a song together called No Worries, and it was kind of like had this like Bo Diddley thing to it, real cool, real rootsy rock. And Tom wanted to do his own version, so he came over, and I sort of heard it as more of like a country pop kind of thing. So we toured a new one and did his version, and we sent it to Sammy, and he loved it. He was just like, man, he was like, this is like a country hit, man. So we asked for his vocals, and we made a duet out of it. And now Sammy just put it in his new movie that's coming out, or I believe it came out this week. It's called Red Till I'm Dead, and it's like a documentary of his 70th birthday concert that he did. So the song's in there, and I'm real happy about it. Produced by me, and I played some guitar on it, as did Vic Johnson, Sammy's guitar player, is on there too. And it sounds great, man. They did a great job. It's just really cool when, you're mixing a track and there's, Sammy's vocals, and, I don't even have to go into how big of a Sammy fan I am, and a Van Halen fan, obviously. Sure. I am. And just to be a part of that is great. But Tom's a great artist, and, you're going to hear a lot from him soon. And we've done some other stuff. So, hopefully we'll get that released pretty soon. But go check out Tom Solis. Great artist. And look for No Worries coming out soon.
Awesome. And then, of course, you'll be on tour with Robin Thicke.
Yeah. We have some dates coming up. We have New Year's, which I guess,
Yeah, that'll be 3 weeks ago by the time people listen to this, I think.
We'll be at Mohegan Sun. I know we're doing a show in the beginning of January in Niagara Falls, and I think they have some steady stuff booked for us through January and February. So waiting on those details, but they'll be available on all my social media sites, and hopefully my website soon, as soon as I get them. And I'm also doing the Soul Train cruise at the end of January. So that's going to be interesting. That'll be fun. I've never done a cruise before. So,
man, I wonder if someone's going to be there. And like, remember Don Cornelius used to do Peace, Love, and Soul Train.
The lineup
is so cool.
is pretty crazy, man. It's just, it's tons and tons of great classic soul artists. So I'll be on there. So that's the end of January. Awesome. And so we're, you know how it is. It's this time of the year. All the plans are being put together.
Everything slows down a little bit. Months.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of waiting to see.
Well, let me give people that rundown again. First of all, it's Joe Augello, JoeAugello.com. So check out Joe's website. It's also, he's on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Joe Augello Music. Go to Robin Thicke's website and check Joe out when he's coming to your town when Robin and them are going on tour. And check out Tom Solis. It's an artist that Joe has produced. Specifically, you want to look at the song called No Warriors and Sammy's movie called Red Till I'm Dead. No worries. Sorry. What did I say? What? No Warriors. Because I can't read my own writing anymore. Honestly, man, this is just like pathetic. Gosh. No worries. And on that note... What's that?
No worries, man.
No worries. Right. And on that note, Joe, man, you're like I'm so happy I got to meet you, man, and I really appreciate all your time.
Likewise, my friend.
You're really straight shooter, man, and you're just thank you so much, man, for sharing all your really cool stories and your success stories are awesome. People need to listen to that, no matter what you do for a living, and it's the real deal. Listen, thank you again, man.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me, and hopefully it's the first of many.
Yeah, man. And when your album comes out, you come back on here. We're going to pitch it. Everybody's going to buy your album. Every one of my listeners. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. I want to thank Joe Augello so much for spending time with us. I really appreciate it. Go to everyonelovesguitar.com and sign up to get notified about future episodes along with some other cool stuff for guitar players. Now, be nice. Go play your guitar. And most important, have some fun, man. That's what it's all about. Till next time, peace and love, and I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.